Morning, good afternoon, or good evening. We are the Jubilians. I am Mir Al-Qasir, the team leader.
And I am Salma Shaghnobi.
We are very excited that we have made it to this round, and we are enthusiastic to share our ideas on how to improve Uber's presence in Barcelona with you today.
We're going to start with the data analysis. We began with clearing all of the files and decided to focus on these six. In those files, we focused on buses, general transport stops, population, and the quantity and ages of immigrants. First off, we cleaned our data by removing null cells. For example, in the bus stop file, we only counted the cells with the district name. Next, for the data sets that included years, we only took into account the year 2017 as it's the most recent. In most data files, there was a neighborhood field name, and since we only chose to use the individual districts, we had to group the data. Given all of these filters, we used Python and the libraries NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, and Seaborn.
Moving on to the visualizations, we decided that it would only make sense to look at people who are likely to use Ubers, which are ages 15 to 34. So, Figure 1 represents the populations of that age group per district, and it also shows that Eixample holds 17.5% of Barcelona's population, making it the most populated district. Therefore, adding more Ubers to that district would better accommodate its large population. A bias can be present in our data because we don't have the population density, and so adding Ubers to highly populated areas may be unnecessary. Figure 2 shows the number of immigrants per district. Eixample and Ciutat Vella got the most immigrants in 2017. Because new immigrants are usually unaware of all transport options, they will most likely resort to using Uber as it is more widely known in the world. However, no one can order a ride if there are no drivers, which is why it should be ensured that there is an increase in Ubers in those two districts.
Now onto the day and night bus stops, represented in Figure 3. Ciutat Vella had the fewest bus stops during the day, and during the night, Gracia and Les Corts had the least bus stops. Therefore, adding Ubers in those locations during those respective times would be financially beneficial. We also thought it would be important to know the different nationalities of immigrants, as we can later focus on the languages the drivers speak or the quality of the translation feature on the Uber app. And it was found that there are mostly Spanish and Italian immigrants entering Barcelona, so bettering the Italian and Spanish translation would make the app more user friendly.
In terms of transport distribution represented in Figure 5, it was found that Eixample has the greatest distribution of 120 stations, whereas Les Corts and Gracia each have a rather low number of transport stations, which are 24 and 17 stops respectively, meaning we should add more transport in those areas. As for unemployment, St. Marty holds the largest unemployment quantity, so adding rides to that district would be beneficial to the customer, the worker, and the company.
Machine learning was applied to the immigrants dataset. Our tool was 99.9% accurate, and it was trained and tested using the years 2013 to 2017 from the dataset provided. This is assuming that all machine learning falls under the condition that Barcelona remains a part of Spain. The prediction of immigrants for 2025 shows that Nogres will have the most immigrants, so it's important to establish a firm foundation for Ubers at this location to ensure that it is ready to accommodate these immigrants. The year 2025 was chosen to be displayed because by the time the solutions are implemented, that year would be rapidly approaching. So it's a good year to base foundations on.
And finally, our business suggestions. The roadmap was split into two stages. The first stage is about how to increase Uber drivers and the company's presence in Barcelona in order to develop a primary customer base. Our first priority is increasing Uber drivers. The pyramid scheme can be used here, where each driver an Uber employee encourages to join will be commissioned. This would result in exponential worker growth. We had originally thought that Uber could pay for the entire VTC license. However, on a large scale, the numbers will add up. So we have retouched this idea into Uber offering to pay for half the price of the VTC license, or paying the entire fees, and the driver has to pay back half of the fee in installments with no interest. This upgrade will pay for itself in the long run, as it will attract a huge number of drivers quickly. It was also noticed that Uber Eats can serve as not only a food delivery service, but a transport method as well. This means that people who are trying to get to a place on the way of the food delivery can ride in the Uber Eats car. This would not only be healthier for the environment, but it would also save lots of money on gas, and therefore these rides can be discounted for the customers, making it more appealing.
In regards to the 1 to 30 rule mentioned in the handbook, Uber can also collaborate with local taxis and offer rides using them at a discounted price. This would attract customers to Uber. Giving free rides to first time users in a particular area can greatly influence customers to use Uber. This can go hand in hand with our next idea, which is that Uber can instate a reward system, as customer loyalty is crucial, where points are given as Uber Cash after each ride. Advertising the reward system to endorse this addition is also important. Introducing a new service would spike interest in the community and increase Uber's presence. So something like moving trucks could be added and it would be helpful for immigrants moving in. A larger quantity of trucks can be added in Nalboris, Aix-en-Pallais, and Ciutat Vella as they already have or are predicted to have the most immigrants.
Stage 2 focuses on expanding the company of Uber in Barcelona and its market share. The first priority is to add Ubers in Ciutat Vella, as that district contains one of the least day and night bus stops and transport stations. So, because of this, Uber can easily give the civilians a great, more common, and efficient method of transportation. Not to mention the fact that in 2017, this district had the second largest number of immigrants. It is important to appeal to these immigrants before they get used to local transport methods, and since current citizens may be more familiar with competitor transport companies, it would be more difficult to convert them over to Uber.
Ciutat Vella, which had the most immigrants in 2017, fares pretty well and still expects a good amount of immigrants in 2025. All of this guarantees that if Uber increases their cars in Ciutat Vella, it will generate a good amount of revenue. One important task is to ensure there's a great foundation in Novo Boris ready for 2025, as that district expects the most immigrants in that year, and it would be ideal to take advantage of the coming situation. After all of this is done, we need to focus on adding Uber cars in Enchample, as it has the most immigrants and the greatest population in Barcelona, as well as high unemployment amounts in 2017. So it's a smart place to add Ubers as there's a high demand for jobs and transports. Saint Martin has the highest unemployment and the second highest population, so Ubers should be added. There should be a high increase in marketing in Saint Martin and Aix-en-Pallais in the first part of stage 1, which is focused on increasing riders because of the high unemployment in both of these districts.
In summary, we should utilize Uber Eats and taxis, pay for part of the VTC, focus on the app's translations, increase drivers using the pyramid scheme, instate a reward system, introduce moving trucks, and Ubers should be added to Ciutat Vella, Eixample, New Boris, Les Corts, Gracia, and Saint Marty for the reasons mentioned previously.
This concludes our presentation. We hope these ideas benefit Uber and we thank you all for listening and your efforts in judging this competition. Thank you all for this opportunity. We hope that you enjoyed our pitch.